Would you believe me if I told you that you're definitely in for some unexpected surprises when you sign on to become a caregiver for a loved one? Hi, I'm Kiana from the Primary Caregiver, and here are 5 misconceptions that I had when I decided to become a caregiver for my mom. Number 1, it's safe to assume that you do not know the ins and outs and everything that's going on in your loved one's life and affairs. I mean, think about it. We all present the image of what we want others to see. And so oftentimes, if we are stepping into care for particularly a parent as a child, it is easy for us to make some assumptions that they have everything together because perhaps when we're talking to them on the phone, parents can make themselves seem like everything is going well. And then when you show up to actually do the day-to-day care and you're starting to look around, you might find that there are stacks of papers and bills and things that have been overlooked because you don't necessarily know that aspect of their life, and they're definitely not presenting that to you. And to be faced with that when you are stepping in to do day-to-day care, the physical labor of looking after a loved one and making sure they're all right and supporting them, that can catch you off guard. It can seem overwhelming and give you a lot of stress. It's like, remember when our parents and grandparents, something would fall through the cracks, maybe we didn't return a library book or get a paper signed or something like that, and they're like, well, why didn't you just let me know? Now it's happening to you when you're with your parent and realizing that they have some bills maybe that they didn't handle, some other things fell by the wayside because they weren't feeling up to it or they didn't have, systems in place to make sure they didn't forget about it. And it's like, this has gotten out of hand. Perhaps we could have handled that had you told me. So now you're faced with realizing that it's not just you're going to be caring for them day to day physically. There are other aspects of their life that you're going to have to take over and help with as well. Which brings me to the second misconception that I had. Your loved one might not always be forthright with their condition and the symptoms that they're experiencing. Perhaps your loved one will say something along the lines of, well, I didn't think it was that serious, or they downplayed the symptoms. I have to admit, this was a common frustration with my mom. We would go to doctor's appointments and the doctor would ask questions. And as he was probing her, she would start to reveal things that I didn't know. Perhaps I've been there with her all week and she did not make mention of symptoms and things that was going on. And she never made mention to me because she didn't think that was important. And so I'm getting new revelations in the doctor's office, and it's very frustrating to hear because perhaps had I been told earlier, we could have done something more about them. And I found over time that some of the reasons why, our parents may not speak up can tie back to their childhood and other experiences that they have, or, interactions they've had with medical personnel. And so not only are you handling them in the point of care that they need now, you are also needing to have support and resources to help them be able to advocate for themselves in healthcare settings and just in their day-to-day life. Third, another misconception I had was that I thought the list would eventually end, and it didn't. As a high achieving person, oftentimes, particularly if we grew up in a small town and went away, or we're known as the leader in the family, we come into these caregiving situations and we think, okay, all I have to do is just be more organized than my loved one. All I have to do is just ask the right questions and things can get done quickly. And we're checking off things on our list. And what you find is that as you check things off the list, which is great, the list continues to grow because other things happen, unexpected situations pop up, and just like, in misconceptions 1 and 2, because maybe a parent hasn't spoken up or because they have not been fully transparent in the other affairs in their life, now the list is continuing to grow with additional things that you need to handle for them. Number 4, when I signed on to become a caregiver, I thought I have all of the energy to take care of these things. But what you find is that if you are not careful in taking care of your health first, you can have adverse health effects as a result of all of the invisible labor, physical labor, time, and energy that you're pouring into your loved one. And if you're not careful in putting yourself first in terms of getting the right amount of sleep, making sure you're eating at the times you're supposed to, and limiting the amount of stress that you're exposing yourself to, you actually can become even more ill than the person you're taking care of. And I don't have the exact stats on this, but I did see where you have a heightened chance of your life being cut short if you are not taking care of yourself as a caregiver for a loved one. Because it is so arduous and stressful for you to be taking this on, in addition to trying to live your own life. Lastly, the fifth misconception I had about being a caregiver was that I would come in and just take care of things and that would be it. However, serving as a caregiver can be an emotional roller coaster, because if you are playing into the emotions that your loved one is experiencing, you too will go along with them on the emotional scale. I have a mentor who served for many years as a social worker and also teaches others how to serve as caregivers. And she explained that it is common for caregivers to go along on the emotional roller coaster of that of our loved ones, because our loved ones are experiencing frustration, disillusionment around their ever-changing health conditions. And if we're not careful as caregivers, we can have the highs and lows that mirror those that we love. So it's important for us to be more like a thermostat, in that we're setting the temperature of the environment, as opposed to being a thermometer where that we are mimicking the temperature of the room. So, have you experienced any of the misconceptions that I had as a caregiver? And if not, if you're new to caregiving, a first-time family caregiver, what are some of the things that you are thinking about doing so that you can navigate these issues that I had to deal with and challenges that are common to caregivers? Make sure you leave a comment. And for more tips and tricks and advice on navigating the caregiving journey and lightening your load of invisible labor, make sure to give me a follow.